Right. Hi, everyone. This is Jason here again. And hi to everyone on YouTube. And welcome to everyone on this class where we. It's right. Where, hi, everyone. This is Jason here again. And hi to everyone on YouTube. And welcome to everyone on this class where we. It's right. Where. Hi, everyone. This is Jason here again. Oops. Yeah, I just have to turn. Sorry, I just had to turn off everything. Yeah, I think looks like I'm back. Yeah. So again, welcome to 20 Questions with Jason Zach. We are in episode 3 now, where I thought that we'll talk about my album which just got released called The Absence of Laughter. And hopefully for all of you who are part of the class and for all of you who are watching from YouTube, you could get some insights into the music, the way it was made, the way it was produced, the way it was arranged, and a few more things which could hopefully inspire some of you who are new to the field or some of you who are already been doing music but maybe want to get back into it at this point where I guess we have a lot more time on our hands sitting at home with a drum kit or a keyboard or a bass guitar and wondering what to do. So I'd be happy to give you some insights into all that. So let's get started. And how the show works is we take questions from this group of musicians who have been kind enough to join my class, and they are going to go ahead, and the whole class is essentially about answering their questions and clearing some of the topics or any doubts or any queries they have regarding the music. And today we have a theme around my album which is called The Absence of Laughter. So if you haven't already, do check it out. It will also be on YouTube very soon for you to stream. But apart from that, you can always watch it on or listen to it on Spotify, Apple Music, and all these other things. Okay, so without any delay, let's get started and let's just ask someone in the class to begin. Anmol, if you're there, you can just ask us your questions. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, first question was regarding vocal layering, which you've used
Okay.
in the song Absence of Laughter.
Sure. Okay.
So this is uh, about the harmony used.
Okay, the
It
vocal
starts at,
harmony.
yeah, it starts
Awesome.
somewhere in the middle of the song.
Okay. 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 So the way I've used vocal harmony in absence of laughter, if I'm not mistaken, is primarily to add heaviness to the chords which are being played. So if I played you the part before the part you mentioned, somewhere here. So it's like a very, it's just trumpet, vocals, and some piano. Piano pretty much runs through the entire song. So if I play this, so the song's not getting heavy. So what I do, so I build up with these layers. These are the harmony layers. Okay, so that's just the vocals making the song a bit bigger. Here we do something else and add a few more layers. So a lot of these falsetto things which happen just to make it a bit more sort of classical and heavy. The intention was to make it heavy because even the music video which we have around this, it's focused on this mime artist or a clown which is going through a series of emotions while performing his act, which a clown. And what we figured with me and my brother who wrote the script for the movie, actually that sort of inspired this music to be arranged the way it is. Otherwise it would have just been like a piano song, it would have just been a piano instrumental. So the reason why all this happened is in the script which he had, which he had made, he had this idea where you have a clown going through a performance, and the clown is sort of in the midst of entertainment, and clowns always have to smile. So the irony there is he's smiling and chirping and cracking his jokes and acting silly, while at the same time he's going through some serious mental problems, a lot of anxiety or depression or whatever you will imagine from that video. So you should see the video as well, and here you will find him about to kill himself, and then he doesn't, because the act, someone calls him to go and do the act, so this is just the voices going on inside his head, so to speak. So it's a little disturbing. That's why the song's called The Absence of Laughter. So it gets heavy, and for production wise, if you see, I've busted to something called voice, and I keep getting it louder and louder. So the first time, it's not like I'm singing it. Yes, I am singing it, as you can see, louder and louder and louder, but also the volume automation kind of helps. So you'll find from no impact or no energy, builds up again, quite heavy now, goes back to this sort of falsetto voice. It's just some trumpet supporting, and then the same thing goes on. So the vocals are pretty much doing just what the piano is doing. If you're looking at it compositionally, so it's actually on the harmonic minor scale. The harmonic minor scale, as we know, has a 3 flat and a 6 flat. The 7 is natural. So it's this scale which I use. Right? And here and there are a few major chords to make it a bit more epic. So there are quite a few chords. It's a chord every beat. So I figured let the vocals sing those chords, because the piano is a very mellow instrument. Well, it can get very heavy, but in this particular song, I've played it in a very playful way. So I figured all this vocal and choral elements will add some depth. And also, in hindsight, it really worked well for the theme which we were trying to generate. And as you know, most of the music which I write is instrumental. There are no words, so we still have to replicate this sort of experience which I told you, like an entertainer going through trying circumstances in his or her life. So that's what we tried to bring out in the music video. But the music video was scripted along with making the music. I would say that I wrote it on the piano much earlier, and ironically this song, if you see my project, it's called as Trumpet Jazz. So I actually thought that this would be a jazz song. The tune was written on a trumpet, and I played that entire tune. That entire thing was played on the trumpet. Then I realized I'm a fairly poor trumpet player. I need a lot more practice, and decided to go back to what I do best, which is the piano. Then I practiced trumpet a bit more and added that also to the music. So that's the way the vocal harmonies were built. What is your other question, Anmol?
My another question, also about vocal harmony was, why did you choose that instead of going for an orchestra part there? Like, why did you choose vocals?
Yeah, see, I think that's my strength. That I feel is my strength, and why I like doing it with vocals. I feel I may not be a very articulate vocalist with my diction, lyrics and all that, but I have most of the information in my head, and the entire orchestral data is in my head. So if I have to bring it out, I like to usually bring out things at the heat of the moment, or if I have something in my head, I like it to come out immediately. And over the years, I've tried to improve that process of singing, because singing is not my main skill. So I've tried to make it sound decent and try to sing on key and try to train my ear to sing. So how I like to do it is to build it one by one. Like, I don't write these parts on a piece of paper or notation script. I try to sing one part and for example, I would have sung this part first. This is easy. This is exactly what the piano is playing. So then slowly you build a tenor and an alto. So I usually start with thirds. So if I can do that with a violin, viola, cello, double bass kind of quartet, or I can do it with a horn section. But I just feel for this song, the vocals worked really well because I can do all the vibrato, and it's also my skill ultimately. So whatever is your skill, like Brian May from Queen would do the same thing with his guitar, with his electric guitar. So that is his skill. For all you know, he would not do it with his vocals. He would need like a Freddie Mercury to kind of sing it for him, to sing all those million vocal layers, right? So it's usually so orchestration as a subject can be done on any musical instrument. You can do it with a synthesizer, you can do it with someone. Like, there's a song called Wayfarer's Dream where I got Kritika, the main singer, to sing. So she did the entire orchestration because I figured her voice would really suit. I wanted it to be a little sneaky, and I wanted it to also sound a little playful, which clearly my voice does not bring out. My voice is more something sad or chaotic. I usually like to use my voice for that. So if you have a pool of singers, so in this case I used Kritika to bring out that chirpy slash deceptive, like very sly kind of vocals. So we did that at the end of Wayfarer's Dream, and she actually sang about 4 times more vocals than what I did for Absence of Laughter. Now that was helpful because the parts in my mind kept building and I was not dependent on my vocal inabilities. So I kept telling her, sing there, no, sing higher, go to the next octave, sing the third, let's try a weird part. We also try to do some rhythmically active parts. So we don't just go with the melody, we do a few randomly panned rhythmically active parts. So sometimes I do vocal orchestration to get like rhythmic things like a drummer playing, so you'll have a polyrhythm with the voice, you'll have a 3 for the left ear, you'll have maybe a 4 for the right ear. So I like to do that a lot with vocals because it's my skill. That's the only reason. And everyone will have one way of doing it, like I said, Brian May from Queen, and then you'll have people like Jacob Collier who can orchestrate with anything, right? But even he prefers to use his vocals a lot because of his amazing vocal range and his sense of pitch. He can probably sing you like a 20 note chord, if that even exists. He can just build it quickly, and if you see some of his Logic Pro breakdowns, he literally records note by note in his software. You should definitely watch that. It's quite exciting. So I usually use vocals to just layer after everything is done, and with instrumental music it's nice because you don't have to just follow the lyrics of the song. You can use it to orchestrate, as you rightly said, right? So it's your skill, whatever you are good at, you work with, I guess, because ultimately you need to get the job done. Because if you keep waiting for a violin player, or if you in some instances don't have the budget for a full-on production, if I'm not mistaken, for proper string arrangement you have to go to places like Chennai and Kerala, or Cochin. You'll have studios there where you have proper seasoned musicians who are into that stuff. Then you'll have to notate it for everyone, right? You'll have to notate everything, or you have to rely on that person to arrange it for you. So instead of all that, if you have all the parts in your head, and another thing I've learned with the recording softwares, you can actually build parts after you've made one part. So you build one part and it inspires you to build the next part. That part was not even in your mind, but you record something, and then you can record the next thing based on that something. So maybe when you're doing vocal arrangement, don't do what choir singers generally do. They hold their ear, then they'll hold this ear, then they hold both ears just to kind of hear their own part. So with vocal arrangement, you need to embrace everything. You have to bring everything into the party, and that's the mixture you try to get. And it's a lot of fun. Even if you're not a professional singer like me, it's a lot of fun. I think I spend more time with my voice than even on my piano. Piano is just one track in all my songs. It's just one track. I record it, practice hard, and then it's all this other stuff which comes in. Okay, so I think we had one more question from Anmol regarding that song.
Yeah, I wanted to know about the recording the drum sound and also the piano, the patch or the sound you use for the piano.
Sure. Well, for I think someone else also had this question. So all my percussion is a drum kit. So whenever I don't play drums, whenever I don't have an actual drummer, I just go to the drum kit and whack it using usually mallets. And this is my trick. I combine toms with cymbals. I don't do toms and cymbals together because I'm not good enough to do it together, I guess. So I'll just do it one by one, and it works for me. So this is the toms with cymbals. Sort of just randomly whacked cymbals all over the place. Right? So it's all normal drum kit. You take a normal drum kit, and I have a drum kit which is quite cool. It has 2 flow toms. So because of that, I get this. I bought it primarily because I can go around and just whack the flow toms, So yeah, and it's panned a little. You'll find one tom is this way, one tom is that way. Cymbals, and then I use, pretty much everything are real instruments. This is a guero which I use. So another trick or my style of percussion is I mix something really heavy like toms with something really funny or something you would never want to mix with that. And for some reason I like to do these sort of things. So I play this scratchy thing, guero. Same accents. Yeah, and I've tried to keep this guero a little random. So I've just played it. So anyway, these are the percussion instruments which I've used. And regarding virtual instruments, I only use one. That's for the piano, because I don't have a real piano at home and I don't mic it. I feel that process. Imagine having a piano during COVID. Who'll come and tune it for you? So like 5-6 months you don't have a guy who can come and repair it. So I use a virtual instrument called Piano Tech for all the piano sounds in my album, as well as a few more, but for the most part it's Piano Tech. So the good thing about this preset or this way of working is you can really adjust the mic of your virtual piano. You can make the mic be placed really far or really close, or you can adjust the size of the room in which you're playing it. I want it to feel like more of a concert hall. So I've used Piano Tech, and as you can see, everything is recorded using MIDI data. That means it's all digital information. I'm telling the computer that I'm pressing the note F sharp at this volume at this particular point in time. When I'm hitting it, when I'm lifting my finger from the key, is all computed. You have the volume of everything, and this is how the data is recorded. So the fun part about this song was we recorded it without any metronome. You'll see the metronome, there's no click for this song. So I had to practice the piano really well or really hard so that I don't mess up all the other parts, because then it'll just continue to become a problem. Okay, so that's about absence of laughter. Sandesh had a question regarding absence of laughter as well, if you're there. Or we'll move on to the next question. Great, we'll come back. Yeah, we'll come back to Sandesh. Shreya, if you're there, your question, please. You had a couple of questions actually.
Yes, sir. The first one being, after listening to your album, I saw that you've collaborated with a lot of other musicians. So for me personally, I find it hard to compose or even like songwriting with another person. So I wanted to know how you go about the procedure.
Of collaborating with other musicians.
Yeah.
Right? So the first thing you need to take a call with collaboration is whether you have a defined part for them or whether you want them to explore the song on their in their own terms. That's the first call you need to make. So with maybe the Great Divide, where Tony played the guitar solo, or Rhythmic playing the guitar solo of a couple of other songs, almost every solo, I did not tell them, please play this note, notated anything for them. Nothing like that was given. It was just play whatever you want at that point. But when it came to vocal parts or when it came to orchestration, then I would tell them, do this, do that, and whatnot. With the drums, what I have a way of working with different people. So with drummers, usually I don't like to tell them anything until they get used to the song. I want them to play, I want them to explore, and then I will tell them a few things, just to maybe make it simple or more busy or more chaotic. Like, I'm not a keep it simple kind of musician. I like to really explore and do as much as we can, as long as it doesn't mess around the song. So we try to keep exploring, but it's good to let the musician himself or herself start themselves off. There are some artists like Ashwini who's played the flute on all the songs of the album. That's like about 7 or 8 songs, and it's very tough to book people like that who are among the most sought after musicians in the scene, the Indian music scene. So I literally had her for about half a day. So I had to do my homework. Like, this is what you'll play, this is the song, the mics were ready, everything. So in one session it was done with flute. So it depends on your preparation as well. But to find people to collaborate, I think it's always good if you try a collaboration at least once. Like, don't think about whether it will work or whether it will not work before you have even tried it once. So there is no problem in just jamming with someone once in time. And there could be a mutual thing. Maybe y'all are not agreeing on something initially, or maybe it just clicks. Who knows? If it clicks, great. Right? So jamming is a very important way to collaborate. You don't have to only collaborate to record. You can also collaborate just to jam and learn. So there's one more guitar player called Joey Sharma from the album, who I used to jam with for a lot of years. I would say almost 12 years. We would just jam for no reason. There were no gigs, there was no studio, there was no band, there was not even a band. It was just two musicians ganging up or just getting together in one room and just playing. So that was the culture, which I think was good with some musicians. With some people it'll last, and even if any of these people in the album, like Kishan who played drums, or Joey, or any of us, sometimes what you don't hear in the recording is how much we jammed. Like with Kishan and with all these guys, I remember we'll probably record for about 2 hours but jam for 4 hours. And that jam for 4 hours won't even be these songs. It would be just something else. We won't even be talking about this album or anything. We'll just say, I'll play this, you play that. So you need to do that. That is how you collaborate really well. You need to first enjoy each other's company. As y'all are friends when you jam, right? You may not be actually friends in life, but when y'all are musicians, you have to find a common ground. Like, what does that guy like to do, and what does he think you like to do? And then you figure out a way to to work together. So yeah, generally you need to take a call when you're recording. If you're getting me to play on your song, and you can work with me in either of the two ways. You let me play whatever I want, or you tell me exactly what I should play. Or you know me very well and you kind of know my strengths, so you will create a communication with me so that all of my strengths reach your album. So also how you communicate with an artist is very, very important. So with some musicians I will not say anything. With some musicians I like to speak a lot, because I know what they are capable of doing. I know if they'll go a little bit away from what I want, so I immediately try to stop them. Especially people like singers who lose energy, or drummers who lose energy. So if a drummer is like trying something really hard, remember, in a studio he's also losing calories, he's also burning energy. So you don't want to then give him a fancy idea 1 hour down the line. When he acts, he smiles, he's showing you that he's still in the game, but actually he's in the last set and you've tired him out, he's sweating too much, so there's no steam left. So that's another very important thing. And also when you collaborate with musicians, what I think I do well, having collaborated with so many of these guys, the moment they walk into your studio, just start the song. Like at least maybe it works in my favor because I don't communicate so socially well to people. I'm not going to ask you what you did yesterday, how's life, or I may ask you that after, or if we take a lunch break, or something like that. But when you're first coming in to the recording studio, it's such an inspiring environment. So because of its nature, you just want music to flow immediately. So don't do too much of chit chat for the first hour or so. It should just be the music. You want them to know that, see, I'm ready to go, everything's set up, there's a mic, come play and let's jam. You don't have to force them, but you just have to set it up such that the only thing to do in that 1 hour is music, not reminiscing and all that, which you can do later or earlier. Okay, so moving on, you had one more question.
Yes, sir. So in all your songs, you've used a very wide range of instruments. Like it goes from trumpets to flutes to electric guitars and everything. So how do you structure them in your song? How do you decide like which instrument where you're going to use it? And
yeah, that's a great question. So the main thing which I do is, see, if you take a song like Parindey or you take a song like Absence of Laughter, they're very different songs in terms of the mood, the rhythm, the chords, the scale and all that. So if it's instruments, I would say you compare guitar. If you begin, you compare the nylon guitar, the electric guitar and the acoustic guitar. So usually if you're using the electric guitar, it is the heaviest out of the three. The nylon string guitar is the most classical out of the three. The acoustic guitar is the most folk-like sound, or the most soft rock, or the most country music sounding thing out of the three, right? But then you'll have guitarists who can do all guitars, so you have to be aware of that. You could also use a banjo. Like Parindey, for example, is driven by me playing the banjo. Even though we had a guitar, I just didn't like that rhythm which was going on. It was not very folk-like. It was sounding like a rock song. So I actually practiced banjo. So I remember having this banjo, and that was the reason why I learnt the banjo, just to play Parindey. And now I've forgotten, of course. So, but it served the purpose. So some instruments would have worked. I don't think the uke or the mandolin would work for my songs, because they're a little bit more serious and not so playful and chirpy, right? So you have to decide the sound of the instrument sometimes defines the emotion, but instruments like the violin go beyond. Like you can play a violin on any song, in my opinion. You can play a bass for any song. You can play drums for any song, but then it depends on the drummer. Depends on the way the drummer is approaching your music. right? So there are some songs where we do not have drums, there are some songs where we have drums, but at the end of the day, it's also open to experimentation. You should start and like make as many songs as possible, produce as many songs as possible, and learn along the way. Like it's the same with me. Even I figured out a way to improve the sound in the next album, which I'm working on. I'm trying to optimize it a bit more, improve the songwriting a bit more, make things a bit more catchy, improve my audio skills. Slowly that's also improving, so that has to keep happening. So everything can grow in that sense. Okay, we shall move on to maybe Suhas, hi. How's it going?
Hi Jason, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Cool. Yeah, I had a question on Parindey. I like the way you play the arpeggios.
Yeah.
So I want to deconstruct or understand what's going on there. I couldn't figure out on my own.
Sure.
And the chords.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah. So the whole idea for that is it's a folk song. So usually for folk music, you're generally going to play the 1, the 4, and the 5 of the scale. The 1, the 4, and the 5 majors, and an occasional minor chord here and there if the process demands. Okay, one moment. So you can just see the chords while I play. So you go. So I'll just show you how I built it started with the hook, primarily the hook. The first thing you'll realize is to make it a bit catchy for the melody, I just keep repeating this motif. So whenever you're writing anything in music, even with my music, which is a little weird at times, I still follow a motif kind of concept where you make something which you feel a person would remember. And with instrumental music, you don't have to make something they can sing back. That's what a singer-songwriter will do. A singer-songwriter, whatever you do, should try and get the audience to like sing back what you do. With instrumental songs, you get a little bit more freedom. So as long as you can remember this fragment, right? So that's then, and also having some stops in the melody can help, like most decent melodies, including see how he stops there. So with any melody you should stop, otherwise there's no punctuation. You need to create that musical punctuation. Now how do we create punctuation in grammar? With all those full stops, commas, or you can make a sentence longer with conjunctions and stuff like that. So now had I done, this would be a bit forceful. The motif doesn't feel like there's a tension and a resolution. That's another thing with a musical melody which I try to do. I'll do, it's like there's some answer to that question, or there's some continuation to that sentence. There was a comma there, if you feel some kind of a comma. New. And I use this same Western concept where you have the dominant chord, which is the D major chord, always nicely wanting to go back to the G. So whenever I end my phrase, I'll usually end with the 5 chord, which is the dominant chord, D7. So C, G, and it loops. Again the dominant. So that was just a chord trick. I did an E minor there. So that creates a little bit more of a uplifting vibe, because I played a D major without its bass. That would be very standard. I played a F sharp bass. So now I have to end it, obviously. So instead of ending it with the normal, which is the plagal cadence used in church, we say Amen, like Amen. Instead of that, I wanted to do like a climb. But actually, it's just the major and major chords of the G major scale, which is G, C, and D. It's just that, and I've tried to build a tune around that, which is even the next part. Yeah, it's actually fun to play the whole song as it was composed. I composed it with actually everything. The melody and all that came a bit later, the vocal parts and all that. Okay, so that's how I've created that. There's no arpeggio as such, Suhas. It's just a melody with some chords moving. Like I did not play. That's a standard way of playing, where you do hold the chord, hold, hold. In this case, I moved the chord a little. I'm imagining a guitar player playing, like an acoustic guitar. So usually when I play piano, you can generally refer my style to what a guitar player would do. Because generally I base my playing around guitar players and drummers, right? I do play piano like stuff only when it's maybe R&B, blues or funky music, but otherwise I prefer to follow guitar players because they are the ideal folk sounding instruments, and drummers is everything rhythm. So you don't need to go anywhere when the drummer is doing whatever he has to do. Okay, that is about Parindey. And I think even Arun, if you're there, you had some question regarding the same song as well. Hi.
Yeah. So my question is almost the same. Like, what is the process of creation of the whole the song Parinde? Like, what came first, and then did you write the song first, or like song was written later?
So by writing the song, what do you mean? The words and all that?
The words, the lyrics, and the vocal.
Really bad lyricist, and first of all bad at, even worse at Hindi. So clearly lyrics came much later, and even the English lyrics came much later. But the message of the song sort of worked for the music. So for a guy like me who doesn't write lyrics, maybe I will someday, but so far I prefer to just deal with the music part. I like to compose the vocal line as well. Like I actually sing all of what I play on the piano, and I have a simple way of analysis. If it's a fast tune, let's not give it to a vocalist or they'll get angry. If it's a slow tune, give it to a vocalist. That's pretty much the deal. So this song ended up becoming a hybrid. So the fast tunes were retained on the piano, but then I did get Naveen, the vocalist, to do some alaps over the tune, and then he ended up singing. So that's, I think, quite a decent vocal tune back to the piano. So I think that's what makes it a bit interesting, I guess. You'll hear a singer, then you'll hear only instruments. Otherwise, songs will just use instruments like in a bridge. Here, the piano is sort of like the lead instrument, and the singer comes in and goes. Just talk. And then we have some English and Hindi kind of interplay where they do a duet together. I love duets. So I try to do that in even Death and the Moonlight, if you guys listen to, that has a nice duet with Shami and Sujay. doing some really good vocals in that song. Most of those parts they only came up with. It was absolutely amazing. So I start most of my songs on the piano and then see how it goes from there. Again, that is my skill. I'd always start with what I'm good at. So I'll begin with the piano and then see where it goes. So obviously the style of music gets affected, but I mean that's who we all are. We are all, I mean, we'll all do music a certain way throughout our lifetime. So find what works for you. And as a piano player, I would encourage you to build riffs while you play. Like, don't play only chords. Like, Parindey would have not happened if I had just done. You could just do this. But this doesn't inspire anything. Right? It's just chords. It's just absolute chords. So even on the guitar, if any of you play guitar, try and make it as melodic as possible. Use the melody and the harmony, like play it with a purpose. Or if you're not able to construct a tune on your instrument, sing. Use your voice. Unless you're playing flute or horns, you can easily sing. So you can sing while playing the bass, you can sing while playing the keys, guitar, violin, banjo, mandolin, you can do all this. So try to always sing along as you play. And this is what I specifically recommend for rock musicians, because rock musicians always start with a fancy riff, then drums, then there has to be a guitar solo somewhere, some 3 guitar solos minimum. So I mean, think first of your vocals, right? If you're trying to do something more very timeless, think of the vocals, and while you play and while you make things, always keep the vocals going. Try to always keep the singing tune in mind. So with Parindey, it didn't work exactly like that, because there were some sections which would not work for a singer. But as it turned out, yeah, that's the best we can probably do. And now when we go live, we do it as an instrumental band. So now the instrumental band is trying to figure out a way, whenever we do our next concert, probably we'll invite a couple of singers along and probably do it with a choir, depending on various other factors. But it's a very scalable song, and as a composer, you should always look at your work like that. Like for me, if you ask me to play this song alone for you people, fine, I can do it, because it's all, the information is in the piano. So I enjoy that style of writing. I'm not much of a software producer. I don't use MIDI. I almost never use MIDI while composing, except for my piano. So I don't work like that with loops, and I don't know how to work like that also. So this is how I prefer to do it. Just the piano, what I like about it, it gives me the whole song. And when I hear it back, I like it or I don't like it. There's no, it's a very binary decision. So I usually will play a song like Parindey overnight, hear it in the morning. That's usually what I would always recommend. Judge your music always the next morning, not the same night which you played it. So in the next morning, it'll be a very binary decision, yes or no. It works or it doesn't work. And you will feel it. That feeling is a unique feeling to you. You will know that if it's hitting you a certain way, then you will take the music forward. So if you're a piano player or a guitar player and composing, maybe you could look at Parindey or a couple of other songs like this as a way to start writing songs. Start with everything, like build a small riff, build a short phrase. You've all heard John Mayer. You know how he writes his guitar riffs. The guitar riff itself could have been an instrumental song. It's just that he sings over that. Right? So you will have various artists, but this is usually my approach. I try to play all the information on the keyboard, which is my instrument, and then build it further. And as it turns out in the final production, maybe I'll remove most of what I played. That's a call you can take. Okay, let's just move on to someone else's question. Siddharth, please. You had a couple of questions. Yeah. Hi.
Yeah. So it's centered around some of the stuff that we've already talked about, which is orchestration. So
Awesome.
What drives the orchestration on the album? Like, why do you do it is one part. And then there's also a lot of instruments that can potentially interfere with each other in terms of the tone and the overall mix. So then how do you deal with that on the technical side in terms of mixing?
Yeah, so a good question. So to deal with many instruments and their clashes, etc., what I found is I rely more on my sound engineering skills than my music orchestration skills, because I feel that if I go music orchestration, I have to really think about the rules of making all these parts. Violin, viola, that should not clash. The third shouldn't interrupt. Then it shouldn't go this way and that way. So I prefer the, well, I start old school and just keep adding part by part, see how each part interacts with each other. But then I will use, sound engineering skills to place it further in the mix, as we call it. I could move two conflicting parts, maybe one to the left side, one to the right side. I could make a higher octave part softer than the lower octave part. So I bank more on my mixing skills to orchestrate music, I feel, rather than my music skills to orchestrate, which I feel will slow me down. I have been more confident with mixing, panning, volume, EQs, compressors, gates, chorus effects to move things back, EQ to bring things front. So I do more of that actually. You will find that 90% of the creative decisions I make are non-musical in terms of orchestration. It's more technical. It's using an equalizer, using a compressor, automation, reverb, chorus, all of these processors which we use. So that's generally my approach. But I will try my best. Sometimes while singing I have more control, because the tone of my voice, the harmonics I get out of my vocal cords, I am in control of. If I want to sound more wider, I will say a more bigger syllable, or I'll bring out a certain way of singing. I'll at least try. And or if I want a more thinner sound, I can try and get that. Of course, there are singers who will do this really, really well. But as a newcomer, or if you're trying to get into production, I would say just understand your vocal cords first, understand your voice, and then it can translate into other instruments. Like violin, you have all these articulations. So orchestration is about two things. It's about where the note is supposed to be played, whether you should play a higher version, a lower version. Sometimes the higher notes could just be an octave, for instance, or a fifth. This creates harmony. So orchestration can be to make it bigger or to make it harmonic, to give an emotion. Like for example, if I'd sung you, it's a bit more melancholic, because I sang what's called as a minor third. This is more hopeful. Back to minor third. Similarly, you can do very grand and epic, while so that's how I stack the part. I'll be like, okay, what emotion do I want? But ultimately, whatever orchestral part you do, you are already going to play some chords behind all this. So then that note shouldn't clash with the chord. So yes, there are a lot of rules, but the best way to approach it is to just think of the bigger picture. There is a part which goes with the first part. When you have recorded it, how does it sound? Do you like it or do you not like it? If you do like it, do the next part, and then the next part. Are you done, or can you do more? I would always, my principle is always go more and more and more, because then from more and more and more you can do less and less and less, right? And my style of music production has always been in a software. I've been using Pro Tools from the first album I've ever done. So I don't know how to write music without a DAW, without a software. Now I use Reaper, which is also a very fancy software, right? And it's very affordable. You can also get it open source, use it for however long. So I use Reaper a lot, and I think a lot of the students we have at Nathaniel also have started using Reaper. It's a great intuitive software or a platform. So the software itself can sort of auto orchestrate things for you. Unlike back in the day, Mozart would write down 30 parts, stare at it and say, hey, this is a nice song. But he has never heard it before. He has never, but of course, that's the skill of a composer back then. They're able to stare at 30 clefs, treble clefs and bass clefs, and actually know whether the song is going to, whether they love that song or not by looking at a piece of paper. So I think,
and that's still taking a shot in the dark, though. That's still incredibly difficult. But now with this, at least you can try it iteratively, right? So that's a really great advantage. That actually leads into a question for Alok, because he's not here and he asked me to ask this.
I can see Alok actually.
He's tuned right in, but he's left the stage. So
no, I'm still here.
He's in the
look at that! That's
good. Screen.
Right.
Okay,
so,
great.
So my question was basically how much is too much. So we're talking about stacking instruments. We're talking about how to mix them. We're talking about each instrument bringing its own set of overtones and harmonics and all of that. And how all of these things clash. So apart from the musical part of it, say you have a trumpet and a violin and something, and each of these things builds up. At some point, you've also got to think of the volume of the overall thing, how many times that phrase is repeating for you to bring in all of these instruments and so on. So in what order do you decide that, so that it doesn't just become the same part going on where you're bringing all of these things? It sounds great, but it's happening too many times, or it's just too much volume, and the layers are where do you make that call, and what drives that call?
Sure. Yeah, that's another awesome question. So the way, again, all of my solutions I try to explain using a DAW and with the technology, because I don't know any other way. I've not grown up with a choir next to me or an orchestra next to me, and I'm sure very few of y'all in this classroom or the YouTubers watching will. We do work at, we pretty much do most of the work on our own, maybe with one or two friends here and there. So as you're orchestrating, the first tip I would have is record the same phrase, the same motif for eternity. That's what these softwares can allow you to do. In other words, you can loop it a lot of times. Loop it like for 32 cycles or 16 cycles. And then that is where orchestration builds up, like how it's done in the movies. It's slow, that same theme will just slowly but surely go crazy eventually. Right? And a good example, I guess, could be the song Dark Spiral of Time from the album, where I use my vocals to slowly build it and take it all the way back. So you can use orchestration when you have a longer loop, when you have a longer performance. If it's a very short performance, I agree, it's going to be a bit random. It'll just come in and you're shocked out of it and then you go out. But then there are some bands who do it beautifully well, like Queen will hit you with it. They will really hit you hard, and that's the band. You have to deal with that. Sting is another artist who will just do things out of the blue and then take it back to normal. Right? Englishman in New York is a great example. There's no great orchestration, but it's just energy. So look at orchestration from the point of view of energy. And another tip or another point I'd like to share is, if you have 50 instruments playing something, playing a part, playing a wall of sounds, now who do you think should stand out more in your mix? Those 50 people or the lead vocalist in your band? I still think the lead vocal, the bass guitar, the drums, the kick and the snare will always be heard or should be heard. And again, I come back to my skills of mixing and the audio stuff which I've learned, where if you give me more and more layers, I'm not going to throw away layers. What I'm going to look at that is, I will say this is giving me more and more depth, creating a better landscape for my lead actors to showcase or to appear a lot better. Ultimately, you have a few lead actors. You'll have Johnny Depp, one or two more people in a movie. You have to make them look good. That is the whole idea. So when I'm making a song, because I started my career of composition luckily with mixing. I mixed and composed like together. So I always tried to acknowledge or respect that fact that not everyone in your song is going to be like the main thing, right? You can only have one lead actor in a movie. So with orchestration, try to also delve into mixing. I would really recommend that.
So I have one kind of a follow-up question.
Sure.
So we have all these instruments, we have all these layers that are there.
Yeah.
Just in terms of not the technical what you do to get that to happen, but how would you so say I'm mixing, say 10 different instruments. Do you look at it as from the point of view of the listener? Do you actually create a 2D or a 3D space where these instruments are placed? Kind of a 3D pan sort of thing. Do you think of it a certain way and then go about placing them there, or do you just see what works and do you think of someone sitting and watching a concert or standing and watching a concert and where these instruments may be or where these people may be playing them?
Right.
That sort of thing. Yeah.
Right. I don't really mix with too much of that vision of everything in mind. I don't visualize it. I look at it pretty much like cooking a dish, even though I don't cook. That's a bad example. But still, I would imagine that while cooking a dish, you have a main ingredient and you can go with the flow. Even if things fail, a good cook can sort of bring things back or can enhance it or can change the taste as you go along. So I would say if you have a bunch of instruments, you said 10 tracks, right? Look at the role of each of these tracks. Don't look at the whole song. Look at, like what I said earlier, simple things. Who's the lead actor in the band? And there are some songs where it was a really heavy song given to me, like a heavy metal song, but I start mixing it with vocals and acoustic guitar. Because for me, that gave me the emotion to mix it. Like that emotion came out. I knew it was a heavy song because the guitar player, the heavy guitar is just going to add distortion later. And you know how distortion sounds. So you don't have to hear it in the mix. So usually you mix for the emotion. Like you have to feel a certain way. Because as a orchestrator or as a mix guy, you're also a member of that band. So you have to think with some emotions, I guess. So you're like the sixth member in that 5-member team, that 5-member group. So you also have to mix with emotions. So how do you prevent things from clashing and all that? Yeah, you can visualize them in a spectrum, but you have to be a bit careful. You can't pan bass guitar on the left. Only the Beatles have done that, and that's way back, right? So you would want bass and drums in the center. There are a few unwritten laws which Spotify and everything will show you when you listen to 10 songs on Spotify. That's a good roadmap. You can also listen to existing recent music. Like if you listen to Taylor Swift's latest album, of which I've heard a couple of songs, I think it's mixed really well. You will find that her voice comes like right to you. That's because everything else is behind you. Like they push everyone away. They just keep her in the main limelight. So it depends on how you mix. John Mayer has a similar style. While a heavy metal song will have the vocalist away and will have the guitars in front. So it's a style. It's also genre dependent. It's also radio friendly dependent. Yeah. So this is where I guess my album may be a good way to study mixing because it doesn't follow a specific convention. I don't think I can call it rock or pop or those sort of things. So it's mixed primarily to bring out the story. So the mixing adds that layer. It's like you're playing your chords, playing your groove, but the mixing always adds that story. That's why I personally like to mix my own music, because I feel I'm not doing an engineering job. I'm doing it's an emotion you're trying to play with. So yeah, that's why it took a while to mix. It took a good year, I think, to finish this. Awesome, thanks. We'll move on to a few more questions. I guess we have about half an hour more. Parindey is sorted. Sanjay, if you're there, you had a question for us regarding one of the songs on the album.
Yes, sir. It was about the dark spiral of time. Can you go through, or can you break down the choir arrangement, the voice
choir arrangement of Dark Spiral of Time? Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Yeah, I think another person had a question on Dark Spiral of Time, if I'm not mistaken. Vignesh, is it?
Yeah, it's me.
Yeah, what was your question? Because I'll open the project and we can discuss both questions in the same project. So for some reason, a lot of you are interested in this vocal arrangement, which is awesome. Hopefully you will all get into this at some point. Yeah, so this is the Dark Spiral of Time, which is called G minor piano, which is a apt name when you don't know how to name instrumental songs. Yeah, these are the parts. I'll just reduce the volume. Now the song gets a bit heavier with that and more quiet. So this is, I think, the part you were referring to. Is it, Sanjay?
Yes. This was.
Yeah. So these are my layers. So there are three parts which I feel this song seems to have. One is called as the theme part, where I sing this. And there's a bass also. So it's just following the chords of the song, if you ask me. G minor, A diminished, D7. It's like a very ballad kind of song. It's just not sung by a singer, but the chords are very... like a Spanish, Spanish flamenco. Like a guitar player could probably do a flamenco cover of this if he wants. It may sound cool actually. So I'm just trying to make it a bit like a bit unclear and adding a lot of vibrato. So if you hear, there's a lot of vibrato going on. I don't know how much more to explain this, but it's just following the chords and I'm trying to weave in a melody somehow. Even though I'm singing chords, that's what I like to do with the higher octaves, with these guys, maybe these two people. And then the harmonies. And then this is the normal choral harmony, alto, tenor, and other such thing. So I try to keep one tune running here. Otherwise, the parts would sound like this is the main focus for the audience hearing it. Like you guys don't even care about the piano now when this vocal thing comes in. So I have to present it in some way. I have to dress it up well. So to dress it up well, I just give two people a unique part. See, without that, it's just sounding like chords. You see, this is not really well planned. It's quite random. And there is some clash here and there. But the piano is sort of driving. And there's a bass also. Okay. So there's no bass guitar as such. It's just vocal bass. Second thought, maybe I could have sung a lower bass note. That would have been better. I don't think I had the range back then. Okay, then there's this bit. I also, this is going to sound very funny, but I changed the tone of my voice. Remember I was telling you all a bit? This is my normal falsetto. So that sounds like a different guy to some level because I'm singing in another vocal register. See, I've produced a different tonality. It sounds really funny. Yeah, it's just to make it, again, just to make the mix sound a bit different and maybe sound like 4 guys are singing this part, and there's a bass, obviously. And here I think it's quite nice. It goes, there's a lot of harmonies which come in at the end. On the chords, simple chords. All this is just with piano, that's all. It's a very simple song. And in the middle of that, we just add some whistling to make it a little different. I don't know how many of you have seen the movie Bridge on the River Kwai. It was very influenced by that, like an old Oscar-winning movie, I think. So yeah, I always, when with whistling, I want to add it somewhere, probably because of that movie. Guys should watch that movie. Yeah, and there's some whistling at the end. This is not on click, so sometimes you turn off the click here and there. Lot of air in this whistling. I need to improve, but yeah. Yeah, so the whistling is also part of the vocal orchestration, I guess. So yeah, this is what we do. So a lot of layers. So again, it's just the software which helps, because I have not planned so many parts. It just comes with the software. You put it on, you sing one part, and then the next part just comes soaring at you, and then you need to finish it off. And until the job is done, you just, in this way of working, you just don't want to stop, till it's done. So usually, I don't work very often on music in general. I take a lot of breaks, but usually when I sit, I don't like to leave the computer or whatever. I like to just finish my work, finish the song, and move on. I don't like to do it as, okay, every day I need to work 1 hour on this song or 2 hours on this song. That I found doesn't work for these sort of things. If you make one part, you're in the zone. You should not leave that zone. And sometimes, or rather many instances, I try to make these parts, it just doesn't sound good. So what you'll not realize is this is a 1 out of 5 success. I've tried this probably 5 times or maybe 6 times, and this is the successful attempt at working and recording. So you need to try a bit more. It will not come just like that. So when you don't get your vocal parts or your orchestral layers or anything happening and pumping out, it's okay. That's a failed attempt. That's going to happen. We are all human. So you need to slowly or quickly rather accept that when you record. You don't have to record to be a perfectionist as such. Lot of the vocals I've sung, I have pitchy problems. I've not auto-tuned anything because I just like it that way, it just feels good that way. And if it's a bad take, so what, you can do it again and keep doing it again. So that's the whole deal with the dark spiral of time. Thanks for your question.
Jason, before moving, I have a question.
Sure, please.
So what was the reverb you're using? So you're stacking it together in a bus and then throwing a reverb on the bus, right?
Yeah, I'm throwing a reverb on a bus, as you call it. Bus is a very weird thing to say, but we will use that since. Yeah, so you have this. Quite a few reverbs, right? This is without reverb.
Yeah.
Now I sound really crappy.
Yeah.
This is without reverb. With one reverb, and this is a shimmering reverb. So usually when I do reverb, I'll do one reverb which tails really long, which I use the shimmer a lot, and I use one which is just depending on my vibe, which room I want to emulate, the depth and the decay, the pre-delay if need be. Yeah, so clearly reverbs are a huge factor of producing orchestral layers because you want to push them back, you want to make them sound dreamy, mystical, epic sometimes. Reverb will help. You need reverb. But when I record, I usually record without any reverb so I can focus on my pitching ability. Sometimes I go very pitchy and one note will shake here and there, or I'm not able to hear things clearly. So I'd advise you when you record, do it without reverb so that you can aim for that correct note, right? And when you do vocal layers, you're not really going with so much of feeling and whatnot. You just have a part in your head, you want to nail it, right? That's pretty much the workflow. So yeah. Great, guys. So we have time for maybe, has everyone asked a question? I'm just going to leave it open to the class now. Yeah. Varun, if you're there.
I have one more question, Jason.
Oh, please. Yeah.
So I had a question regarding Wayfarer's Dream. So the verses had a sort of a swing, like tuck, and then the chorus goes
what we'll do, if I'll just stop you there, we'll just attempt one or two of the general questions which we have here. In the meanwhile, I'll open up the project. That'll make it a bit more smoother. We'll have Shrikant's question, which I think doesn't need me to open up any of my projects. Tell me.
So, I was wondering, I'm a huge follower of your riffs on YouTube. So I was wondering if that has somehow inspired you to make this album, or has it been in any relation to the production of this album? And I've always seen a story behind every riff that is being posted. So what is the story behind the entire album?
Yeah, no. So the riffs have definitely enabled me to make this music happen, because it allows me to make music without the final product in mind. That's when I started doing it about almost 5 years ago. So what happens is I'll play a small piece on the piano and I'm not able to take it forward. So I'm like, let me not throw away that idea. Let me record it. And by recording it, I have to work really hard because I'm putting it up on YouTube. Everyone has to hear it. So I have to practice hard. I can't just play. It's not going to come magically. So I started using riffs as a source to practice my piano better. And that seemed to happen because as you get a bit more older and as you get more really involved with the commercial music scene, sometimes you forget to practice, which I think is a problem. So riffs have been my main source of practice till today. Whenever I have to do piano practice, I'll do some exercise, some book, or read some notes or whatever, but then I'll immediately wander off. And when I wander off, I end up sometimes composing some music and making these riffs. So with my style of music, it works really well. because I don't have to connect two things together like a singer-songwriter. I can connect it together like in a different way. I can use different chord resolutions to maybe bring one riff into the other, which have different emotions. So I can even use rhythm. There are some riffs where I would do a 3:4 poly thing, while another riff I would just do straight triplets, right? And that is exactly what we did with the Great Divide. If you listen to that song, at the end there's a triplet, and Tony, the guitar player, brings out the polyrhythm, and then we actually forget all the triplets and just end the song with a bang. So that whole movement comes with recording music piece by piece, but over the years I've learned to kind of put them together faster than what I used to do. Earlier I'll make one idea, then I'll wander off, and it'll just be a song with one idea. It'll not be more than that. But what I've tried to do in the past few years is make an effort to at least write 2 parts. If I can't do like 5 or 6 parts with a bridge, at least I will do 2 parts. I'll not stop till I get these 2 parts, and then I'll see how they play with each other. And what happens in my writing is I like one part really well. You call that the A section. But then there are a lot of B sections which I make, and then I'm not fully convinced with all the B sections. But you know what happens then, right? You record all the B sections with the A section, and then you have a much more interesting song to begin with, because you have more B sections. And they all were written because of the A section. They were written to serve the hook or to serve the main part. So that has worked with me with my riff releases, which have been happening for a while now on a daily basis. So it helps me a lot to keep moving forward as a writer, because sometimes writers will be like, okay, now I don't feel like writing, I'm not in the mood, or you don't have some friends or bandmates, your band took a break during COVID or whatever, so you lose the flow. But if you keep being honest to yourself and creating something organically, in my case in a daily way, but in your case it could even be weekly, you could try to make one short sample or one small piece of music every week. I think you're being true to yourself and the field. And what happens with me when I make these riffs or even then convert them to songs, I feel like I'm not really making these riffs or these songs. I feel like I'm just in an environment where the songs are happening, and I just seem to be there when it happens, playing my piano or some such thing. So I've also believed that we don't make the music we make. The music comes to us. We are more a vessel for the music. So if we stay in the hunt, the music will reach us one way or the other. And we are humans, so it will work maybe 1 out of 6 days. But that 1 out of 6 days can give you a song a week. That's 52 songs a calendar year, right? And that's 4 albums, I guess, isn't it? That's 4 albums with a 1/6 success rate. So if you think about working like that, you don't care about anything. You don't care about who heard your song, who's going to hear your song. It may not be the best way to be commercially acceptable, but it keeps music going out from your system every day. And even if you watch some of Ed Sheeran's interviews, he'll say the same thing. You need to write more and more, and some songs will definitely come out as nonsense, like you will not like it, but get it out there. Just keep bringing everything out, and don't bother about what people think, because that will slow you down, right? And that's why these riffs have helped me, because no one has to tell me that, hey Jason, you will now use that in a verse, or you have to make that into a song. I can do anything with anything, but of course it has to sound good. So ultimately that's what you want to do. So make more music. That's the main motto. And the best way to make more music is to make short pieces. That's where these riffs have sort of helped. I can make short pieces, and you're right, like a lot of these songs are not only there on this album, they are going to be there in the next album, with my instrumental band. So our band, this Jason Zach band, is now becoming a bit weird because it's my music which I do with all the weird orchestration, sometimes going heavy and crazy. And now I have this other regular band which plays folk music, folk rock, and now that band is also starting to do very progressive and weird stuff. So now you have two bands both doing weird stuff but sounding very different. So both the albums actually, I hope, will come out in this year, because it looks like we've been making a lot of songs over the past 2 or 3 months. It's just that with my band we've not been able to jam due to all this all of the lockdown. So that's been slowing us a lot. Yeah, so keep at it, keep making, and yeah, do follow my riffs. You can get a few ideas, and very soon hopefully I'll make a website out of that. That is a thing planned out. I thought I'll hit about 5 years of doing this, and then I'll put a website or something. So that's about 1,000, close to 2,000 of them. Then we'll put it out neatly with emotions, with genres. So that is the plan in the future, because it's the riffs which actually make the songs which I make. You'll hear it, it'll be some long 8-minute song, but it was actually built using small 10-15 second fragments. So I like working like that. I don't like the fear of a 8-minute song hurling at me. I just want to keep it simple. So that's again what I like to do with riffs or with anything I create. I just like to keep it simple. I don't like listening to too many people. It's my music. Ultimately, you're playing music for people who love music, not necessarily musicians. So if they like it, well and good. It's a great feeling. So don't get stopped along the way with random, even your friends, like musician friends, telling you that, oh, this is not catchy enough, or this is not going to work, even before you recorded it. That's now we all have recording softwares and drums and all of that. So just play it, get it in there, then get it out there. It's as simple as that. And everything is free. YouTube is free, Spotify is pretty much free. So you can get music out there, you can get music in there, pretty much not spending anything. Just a few thousand rupees for a sound card, a mic, you're good to go. Okay, so thanks for your question, Shrikant. You had a few others, but I think we are running out of time. If I want to at least get one question in from everyone before we conclude. Who has not asked a question? Arushi, right?
Yeah, okay. So one of my questions was related to your song, Redemption, which I'm obsessed with. So,
awesome.
yeah, it's really in my head. I can't get it out. So one of the questions was basically what inspired the chord transition in the bridge? Because it wasn't really a predicted chord transition, which you'd hear in any other song. And since we were talking about chords in this song, I was wondering, was the entire chord progression of the song derived lyrically or modally?
Yeah, so the two very good questions. So yeah, Redemption is also inevitably the song I like the most from this album after hearing it back. But when I made it, I don't want to share this out with too many people, but it's actually was a YouTube lesson. I made it to teach piano. So I actually came up with that riff as a YouTube lesson, which is somewhere there on YouTube to teach something, some topic. And then the man Dennis came on board and he made it into an actual song. So I would actually give him 100% credit for making that into a song, because I thought it's this weird 7/8 song going into some other weird time signature. If ever at some point in life I'll make it as an instrumental song, and over the months it was never going to be part of this album. And then Dennis took the song, and with a few email threads he was like, dude, we are gonna do this song. And then he sat in his car and he would just keep sending me vocal samples of him just singing randomly with the tune, and he would keep doing that. I think it took 2 to 3 months, maybe a bit more. And then finally he said, yeah, this is the track, this is my vocals. He wrote the words. Of course, we had help from another intern at the time, Kakoli. And then we put the lyrics together, and he found a studio in Miami, recorded it there, and sent me his vocals. Okay, so he actually changed the song. He was telling me things like, you know, you need to do something in the bridge. He actually motivated that. Otherwise, it would have been like a standard verse chorus thing. So he wanted it to be like, I don't know. I really don't know what he was implying. We would just keep joking about it at the time. But he just wanted something really artistic there. So as always, I bring out, I guess, the C7th chord, which is the dominant chord, which takes you to F minor. So power of a dominant chord in music is you can leave the scale, sound radically unique or different, and then come back to the original ground zero scale. So this song, I think, is on the key of F minor, and I play the C7th chord to resolve back to the F minor. And that whole middle part you will find is in the C7th, if I'm not mistaken. C. And to keep it a little bit mysterious, I'm adding that flat 9. So I'm trying to add that flat 9, and he's also singing. He ended up singing on some Arabic kind of or Middle Eastern kind of scale. I think that sounded very cool. And that motivated Kishan to change his drum groove also. You see what the vocalist is doing. He's like got everyone to change. Even my bass line changed. I was trying to just hold the bass line. Just just play long notes. So something about that part made it very groovy, I guess. And the irony of this part is it's 4/4. This is a 4/4 part. Or a triplet, very simple. The part before that, the chorus was on a 7/8, which I thought should never be a chorus. And that ended up being the chorus. So that's the weird irony. The main hook is on 7, while the weirdest part is on a very normal time signature. Six, 1, 2, 3. There's some bass going on. So we sort of chill out there. And he's done that just to build the guitar solo, just to take the guitar solo forward. And now you have a guitar solo. Again, very Middle Eastern and very, yeah. Na 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 da da da. That key. Now we've moved to a 7, but he's singing it in a very peaceful way. But it's actually 7. Last chorus. Incredible drumming by Kishan to maintain that ride thing, going. So I think this is a combination of the singer and the drummer, and the energy they put in for the song. You have no idea how it sounded before all this. It was, imagine a pianist writing this sort of a song, and mind you, there is still piano there. You'll find some quiet, some bright, pleasant piano somewhere there, which has been completely killed by all these people in a good way. So it ended up becoming a rock song. I really don't know how that happened. So this is one of the mysteries, but these are the things which happen when you make music. Sometimes you leave things really to other people's imagination, sometimes to your own, and you just let it flow. You don't need to control the song. Just let the song somehow amalgamate itself into a product which you feel proud about. So the moment we heard it, we all quite liked it. Everyone who heard it, which is which is the whole point. At the end of the day, you should like what you do. You should enjoy whatever you do, and yeah, you will always remember these memories of making the music with your friends and colleagues and bandmates. And even though we used to be bandmates in the same band, Black Earth, where we would meet and jam almost every other day, but this was also quite a interesting experience. We would be as active over the phone call. How should we record? What to record? Is this tune working? Is that word working? So all of this discussion would happen, and it eventually became the song, right? And yeah, he really believed in this entire album. He was very happy with all the songs. So I think that's why I dedicated it to him and my dad, who pretty much supported. Of course, my dad has been supporting every song I've ever made, but this album, more specifically, Dennis used to keep talking about it. He would also talk about other songs which he did not sing on. You talk about that. He would also tell me that sucks, so you need to improve that. So he would really be actively involved with pretty much all the tunes of the album. So that's why I think it came out the way it did, with people like this. So you'll be very happy when you work with albums, when you work on your music, when there are other people around. So you also should learn to trust people and enjoy the relationship with them. You don't have to be too forceful around things. Like, there's a guy who sings really well and who's very creative, so you need to let him be, or let her be, and just let them do their thing and then see what happens. So that's why I enjoy making the music this way, because it's all sorts of musicians coming together. There are lots of other singers as well who add their own twists, their own vocals, their own layers. So yeah, Redemption was like that. So the bridge, we made it weird by playing a C seventh chord, a C dominant 7, but we changed the scale. So we did that sort of a scale. So we didn't do the normal minor. It's, what do you call that scale? I have no idea. It's just a mode of the harmonic minor. No, it's actually the same mode. It's the same
like
mode
a harmonic minor with a flat 2.
Yeah, and it actually comes from the F minor family itself. So it's a mode. For those of you who know modes, Dorian, Ionian, Phrygian, all of that, this scale in the bridge came from the same scale, but the scale was harmonic. It was not major. Okay, thanks for your question, Arushi. I think Pranav has a question. Nikhil, if you're there, Nikhil. Oh, Nikhil is not here. Oh, Nikhil is here. And Deepak. So I think we have time for, I think we've sort of overshot the time, but it's okay. We'll do 3 more questions from the 3 guys who have not yet. Yeah, and while we're getting the next guy on board, thanks for all the YouTube people who are watching. Thanks for all your likes, your comments, and all that. And do stay tuned. We'll do this soon and hopefully discuss about different topics. Maybe we talk about production, we talk about songwriting the next time around. So do stay tuned for more episodes of 20 Questions with Jason Zach. Yeah. Anyone else has a question? Yeah, Deepak. We'll just go with
yes, sir.
Yeah.
So should I go? Should I ask?
Okay, Deepak and Yash, and then one more person, and then we'll wind up. Thanks. Yeah.
Sir, I really like your album. I really like it, and one of the the Great Divide. That song. One of my favorites.
Sure.
So thanks. Yeah. So I have a long question. I've written it. I'll read it. So the Great Divide is rhythmically very active. So different time signatures keep happening throughout the song. So before creating a song like this, do you create some rough rhythmic structure of a song in your mind, or do you start with some approach? Maybe by choosing some time signature or some small idea, and then let a song like The Great Divide be created as you keep working on it until it's finished? So basically, can you explain the vision and the creative process behind the song?
Sure. I think the vision was very much like Shrikant had a question, right, about this whole idea of my riffs and all that. So the approach was very similar. I just used a combination of riffs, but I really till today, I mean, we don't even have a music video on this yet. So I really don't know what this song is supposed to be about, but it's just the great divide. So it's like you have two themes running in parallel in the song, two emotions or two sides to the story. Like usually in a movie, you support one side. You tend to not, so you'll only support the side you want. But here you have a hypothetical story where both sides at different times need to be considered. Like there is no good and evil. It's like a hybrid. It's tough to explain. I'm just trying to say something useful, but the song will probably convey that better. So yeah, the odd time signatures, the only conscious odd time signature which we had was only in the beginning, which had this weird, not weird, it's a 7. It's just a normal 7.
7.
And you'll see the markers here. You'll see the time signatures changing here and there. Sometimes a 13, sometimes a 12. But this was not pre-planned. So with my approach of writing music, I usually never have the metronome giving me the time. I make the song, and if it happens to be on a certain time, well and good. Like Jellyfish is on 31 by something. You know, I had no idea. The drummer also did not have any idea when Kishan played it. It was only my bandmate when we started jamming, we broke it down for maths purposes. It ended up being 31, but for years and years I never knew it was 31. So you can actually make the riff and then write the marker into the software. So this is one part. So the whole idea of composing on 7 is I don't like it when the listener counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then taki. I don't like that rush. I mean, there is a band called Rush actually, ironically, who do music like that. Generally, you count fast 7s. Dag, 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 dag. So I want your head to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One like a pulse. So your head will move with the pulse. So that was the intention. So you will hear a 7 by 4. I think 7 by 8 is wrong. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now the drummer just shows off the entire rhythm. This is one section. So these are all the drums which we recorded. Very 6 o'clock-ish. But yeah, if you listen to this band Dream Theater. So then we have, you have this, a part where we go. So some of you had fusion questions. I think this was the so-called fusion part of the album, but the vocalist Omkar who sang the part, he sang it much after this was all recorded. So it's just that Sani, the swaras which is sung by the singer sort of makes it Indian. But I think it's just a normal part. It could have been a rock riff also. It's just not presented in that way, I guess. So I like this part because it builds up some tension. And for me, while writing, I always try to write like that. First, I should have a good... Yeah.
So what is the time signature around this this sargam part? Somewhere the time signature changes from 7 to the sargam becomes faster. There, what time signature is there? Can you analyze the time signature around this sargam part?
Yeah, this is the time signature. 13, it. Yeah, now it has to go to a very laid back part. See, this whole part is revolved around the voiceover. So everything about it is to serve. So that's why I changed the groove there to serve the voiceover. And then here we have one more groove. These ruined holes no more. So this you can count in many ways. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, or slow triplets. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can count off. And Tony, the guitar player, is playing you everything. Like if you put headphones, you can hear every time feel. And the drummer is building. See how simple the piano is, just one track. That's it. Now I have a lot of synths. In fact, all these synths were done by one of my students, Anirban, who's damn good at all of this sound design stuff. So he did all of this. He's also doing like a weird rhythm here and there. Now you have a guitar solo. Incredible solo. It down. Am I alive? Is this all a dream? It gets really heavy and then again it comes back. So it's sort of like 3 or 4 mood movements. So it goes back to heavy. And here we have what better than a flute to calm everything down. The scale is a more hopeful scale. It's called as the Mixolydian scale. So a little bit more hopeful. The Beatles have used this a lot actually. The song just sort of so it's sort of like you made both the factions in this song, or both the communities who were probably at war with each other, sort of made friends in the end. So that's the story. But I think you'll have to ask my brother at some point as to his voiceover as well, because his voiceover also carries the story forward. I don't think music would have been enough. This was too chaotic to just have music. So I told him to figure out some voiceover elements. And we've done a lot of things to his voice also to kind of work with that emotion, right? You should check out the song Death and the Moonlight as well. That also has something very similar.
I've heard that, sir. That's
awesome.
Also really
okay, thanks for your question, Deepak. Yash, I think, has not asked us a question. And then I guess...
Sir.
Yeah.
So what was the basic concept behind the song Like a Woman Scorned? And how did it advance from its initial stages to the final product?
Okay, thanks. So again, it started with this. For once, I started with a new instrument, the bass, and I have this acoustic bass lying around. So I made the riff on the bass. Okay, and the melody was not really constructed yet. I had to sit with my friend and lyricist Siddharth from this band Blues Before Sunrise. So we sat together and we made a simple melody, and then when Shami, the vocalist, actually sung it, she also kind of did her own thing. as a damn good vocalist will always do. Added harmonies, added different vocal textures, but it actually started with this. I was just playing this on the bass and just sitting around. And then goes to a jazzy part. Back to a funky part. This is, I guess, the most conventional out of the 13 songs, because it just follows a normal structure. But what's interesting when I wrote it was, can I have 3 different genres if possible? Like one funky thing, then some jazz stuff, and then we ended up putting in a Veena solo amidst all of this, which I think is one of the highlights of this album, which Radhika Bhaskar, a very renowned Veena artist, played on. And she just made that solo from I don't know what. I don't know how you would play a solo on such a song, because when we wrote it, we thought it's a blues song. It's just a normal blues song with an odd time signature, but it's a blues funk kind of song. We have a Veena and we have all these things. So that's what I've really enjoyed with this album. I've started working with a lot more Indian musicians. I mean, even though we are all Indian musicians, people who have studied Carnatic music and Hindustani music really well, and I've tried to get that side of the story into this music. And I did try it for the first 2 albums. If you listen to some of the songs of the first 2 albums, there's some Indian vibes, but in this album there's a lot of Indian elements, because I think the artists, I guess we gave them more room to do their own thing. We have a nice flute solo in one song. I forgot the song name, but you have a really good flute solo by Ashwini. So this album is not only about the songs, it's also about experiencing some of these amazing musicians who've played on the albums. The drummers, man, we've had Kishan, we have Matayo Fraboni, we've had a lot of great drummers who've played on this album. And you guys should listen to my earlier album as well if you have the time. It's called A Game of Notes. There you'll find another monster drummer. His name is Wilfred Demos. He's another mind-blowing drummer. He played on that entire album. So I've been fortunate to have some really good drummers, and Bangalore is a great city for drummers, as we all know. So we have all these guys moving around. So luckily we get to work with these people and make the album. Okay, so that's how I started Like a Woman Scorned. First bass line, then the drum groove was very simple, just brushes, like just some jazz shuffle thing with brushes. That's what I was imagining, and the drummer executed that. And yeah, then the vocals, I think the vocals is what made the song really cool, the way she sang it. And that's something you really need to do. The icing on the cake, the final job when you're writing a song, if you are not in control over it, sort out your vocals. Your vocalist is going to make it the song, So she was able to add that really cool a cappella in the beginning. I think that sets it off. That I had never composed. That we did in the studio. So a lot of things which were done in the room while tracking. And then Siddharth, the lyricist, is also a musician. So he would also suggest saying this chord doesn't work, or that riff going from here to there. He connected it very well for me. And then yeah, that's how it built forward. But eventually I played it on the keyboard using a Stevie Wonder patch. So you'll hear a lot of the clavinet kind of sound. Yeah. So this had some good guitar players as well in this album. You can listen to Rithvik, Tony, Joey, and a few others as well who've played some really amazing guitar. Vikram Shekhar again is played from my band Black Earth. He played on Redemption, which is the song Dennis sang on. Okay, great. Thanks for your question. We have time for exactly one more question,
Thank you, sir.
and then Yeah, thank you for all your patience, all of your amazing questions, and all of you guys on YouTube for sticking around. We still have people watching. That's awesome. So, yeah, and before we take the last question, for all those of you who are on YouTube or for the guys on this classroom as well, we'll be doing this more regularly, and every time we do this 20 questions show, we may have a theme, or in some instances we may not have a theme. It'll just be 20 questions with you guys. I think today we've done a bit more than 20 questions, so that was fun. So you keep the questions coming, and let me hear it on Instagram, or let me hear from you. You just have to tag me. I'm at Jason Zach on Instagram. So you just have to tag me with your question, and we will put together another episode, episode 4, and then we'll have your questions come into play. Right? Whether it's on production, composition, songwriting, or whatever, anything you can you can ask. Okay, I think we are pretty much done. So thank you for all your questions. If we don't have anything else, thanks to all the participants on this class. Hope all of you have learned something, or hope all of you have some ideas and some thoughts to go with at the end of this session. And I hope that you can all continue to make some crazy music going along moving forward. And I look forward to hearing from all of you with all of your music. Do tag me, share it with me. I'll be happy to hear anything you do. Doesn't matter how good or bad you think it is. If you want me to hear it, just share it, and I'll be happy to hear the thing. Right? And again, thanks to Siddharth from What's the Scene for joining us on the chat. What's the Scene is doing some amazing work for promoting artists like myself included. Siddharth did an amazing article, an amazing album review of The Absence of Laughter. So do check it out. You should all read that. That'll be give you a very good musical as well as a general insight into this music, like what it feels for someone to hear this album. Right? So thanks for all of you for joining in, and keep at it. I will see you soon. Cheers.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.